in a lot of ways, I'm kind of like, kind of the black sheep, kind of shunned from the, the beginning class of the industry, the core people that kind of started, the pioneers, because I disclose that the ink is just, it's knowing what I know, about hair transplant, about all the remedies. I would still to this day just do Smp or just shave my head. What am I going to look like a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years down the road? It's something a lot of people don't think about.
What are some of the other problems that you're seeing in the Smp industry, and how are you guys trying to sort of correct those problems?
Smp companies will market a guy that has hair.
With hair loss, if you try to cover it up and sort of not tell anyone about it or sort of own it like that, then you still leave space for this unhealthy mindset. And
I'd love to know your perspective on how natural this really looks.
And psychologically, they're going through so much. They're thinking, okay, first of all, they're getting their hopes up, seeing if this is actually going to work. And a lot of guys that are really addicted to wearing a hat. I mean, we have some clients that have hats in every single color with every single outfit.
How's it going, everyone? And welcome to the Baldcafe podcast. This is now episode 26, and we're back with more information, more correct information about Smp. I'm joined by Nicole and Joe from Scalp Logic. How's it going, guys? It's an absolute pleasure to have you on the podcast.
It's a pleasure to be here.
We're
so excited.
Thanks for having us, Harry.
It's a pleasure. So listen, we've been in touch on Instagram, we've been in the DMs, and you mentioned that you wanted to just help spread the correct information about Smp. I did a podcast episode before, and in that one we spoke a little bit about maybe past practices, when you think of the typical hair tattoo, people going to actual tattoo parlors to get, hair tattooed on. I feel like the whole Smp industry is going away from that, but you also, you want to bring out more truth to it. So why not go ahead, introduce yourselves, introduce what you do, and your whole sort of thought process with this whole Smp game.
Sure. I'll let you start.
So I've been with Joe for quite some time now, and we really kind of, I think, try to promote a lot of honesty and a lot of, I guess you could say, like, integrity in this business. We really focus on the client himself and just really giving him the best results. Joe, being a client himself 10 years ago, really went through quite a journey with hair loss. It was really almost like defeating. So for him to have that experience, I think really,
sure.
We carry that every day.
Yeah, transparency. I try so hard to operate as if I'm just a consumer still. And that's all we want to know. The hair loss industry across the board, hair transplants, the foams, the pills, everything is just so misleading. That feeling when you get your hopes up, oh my God, I got the solution, I can help myself. It doesn't seem to be real. And I feel like Smp is the real thing. When it comes to finding like a liberating solution you can just forget about. So we're obviously very, very passionate about that, and very passionate about being honest, because it's magical in itself. It doesn't need to be hyped up. We don't think so.
And there's so much non-integrity. There's so much deceit in the industry, and that's what makes it so hard for guys to really know like what works and what doesn't work, and what's kind of like a scam essentially. It's
hard enough to educate, but there's so much misinformation, so many false claims. Yes. It makes it even tougher.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think we've spoken before about how the advertising and certain companies, the way they sort of really go for guys, right, at their lowest point, easy targets for all sorts of, like you said, they're scams, because they do exist. They may take an ounce of truth in some elaborate study, right, that it may show results. And, guys are looking for anything and everything to help them hold on to that hair. And so, I think it's a great thing you're trying to do, trying to just bring truth to it. Really similar values with myself. Why don't we talk about, you said, Joe, you had lots of experience with the whole hair loss yourself. You've been in this industry now for 10 years. In terms of Smp, if we focus on just the Smp for a minute, why do you think it's a really great choice for a lot of guys, who are suffering with hair loss and have gone bald?
Yeah, for the guys that, the hair loss affects, which is probably 90%, most guys, trying to find a solution, it's bad enough being bald as is, right? If you find a remedy, and you look even more pronounced, right? People can tell what's going on with that guy's head, with something looks fraudulent. It hurts that much more. So if you're going to do anything at all, I'm a firm believer, knowing what I know about hair transplants, about all the remedies, I would still to this day just do SMP or just shave my head and be bald, because I think, in my opinion, everything else looks, fake. It doesn't look, it doesn't give you that liberation where you just know in any element, any lighting, any circumstance, something come right up close, and you still look like, like your real hair.
Yeah. I think that's the interesting thing for me with SMP. It's the closest thing, of course, to just fully embracing it, which, is what I'm all about. And so it's a really interesting one for me. The thing I haven't worked out yet, and obviously this is because I haven't experienced it myself, is we talk about your true self, right? Your true self. And the only problem I can see is that if a guy was to go for SMP and still be sort of hiding from the hair loss, like using it to hide from it. And I've seen on some of your pictures, where you speak about it looks natural, like you said, and it's the person's choice then. SMP is something you can get, and if you want to tell people you've had it done, then go for it. But it's not the thing that people are going to notice, like, oh yeah, that guy's, that's a hair tattoo. It's the choice then for these guys to tell people if they want to have it done or not. And hair loss, we know, is such a mental game. And so I think if you can be totally, it's all out on the table, and you can be in that space where you can tell people you've had it done, I honestly think that's just the best option for most people. So have you ever had it, see it as a problem where even with having SMP done, it still doesn't solve the sort of mental side of it? And just in your experience with different clients, right? And maybe when they come in and their expectations, are you going to be able to meet those expectations? What's sort of some of the advice you give to different clients in a sense? That's a pretty loaded question. So if someone comes in, right, let's say, and you can see from the way they're talking about it, the SMP might not give them that relief that they're after. Will you still do it, or will you kind of suggest, like, you need to maybe work on this mental space you're in to be fully comfortable with it?
Yeah, of course. So there's, me not being a man, but handling clients and really not only just talking to them on a daily basis a lot of the time, but coming alongside them during this journey, because it really is a journey. It's a process that they're going through, and psychologically they're going through so much. They're thinking, okay, first of all, they're getting their hopes up, seeing if this is actually going to work. And a lot of guys that are really addicted to wearing a hat. We have some clients that have hats in every single color with every single outfit. Even after they have the SMP, some of them, it'll take a little bit longer to, okay, I can actually put my hat away. I can choose to wear the hat, but not because I have to wear the hat at this point. And some guys just, from the moment they walk in, they really can't shake your hand. They really don't look you in the eye. And then by their third session, they walk in a completely different person. So I think it's, every single guy is so different. Some guys really don't struggle with it, and it's really just to enhance what they already have and to make them just like a booster. But then other guys, it will run them over like a truck. So I think that every single guy is so different in what we've seen. What do you think?
Yeah, just the psychology of losing your hair in general is everyone takes it a little bit differently. I always explain it when I talk to guys. I was like level 10 extreme, meaning it really just made me depressed. It instantly made a negative impact on my life. I was putting makeup in my hair 12 years ago. I was 21 years old, hiding from my girlfriend. So I think just shaving your head and getting over the fact that this is real, I actually am losing my hair, whether you're 20 or 40, that's tough in and of itself, that is really tough. But I think S&P in probably 80% of cases, I'd say, to throw a number out there, is the solution. It makes someone feel whole again, feel like you're optimized, you're your best version of yourself still, even though you don't have the 3D texture of your hair. But still, you're right. Some of those guys, it hits them. Yeah.
And do you think then, do most of your clients, are they like open and honest about it? Do they tell people they've had this done, or are people sort of still secretive about it? I haven't had enough experience talking to guys who have had it done to know. So from your experience, what do guys usually tend to do?
Got it. So just to put it in context, not to give a proper introduction, so I've been doing this for 10 years as an artist. I run a company now for about 3 years, and Nicole's been handling the phones for over a year, so she talks to the guys on a daily basis.
Yeah, I mean, as well as being an artist, I definitely talk to them and get kind of the whole life story, absolutely everything from A to Z. So it definitely takes a different form. But in general, I think every single guy, again, is so widely different. And I mean, I think we've seen probably, I'm going to be about 80% of guys are not telling anybody that they've had this done. What do you think? I'd say about...
that's a little fudge. I'd say 80% tell maybe...
one or two people.
Not more than 2 or 3 people.
But they really still conceal it. It's still something where they don't want people to know. They want people to think that they just shaved down. And I mean, I have some guys that even say that they found a serum that they're growing it out with. So again, it's like everybody's so widely different, and it's hard for them to really just, okay, yeah, I had this done, and it was to conceal hair loss, and I love it.
Yeah. In operating a business, sometimes guys do some weird things, maybe some rude things, disrespectful, awkward. And I always remind Nicole, like, we're getting the weirdest version of these guys. You know, they're trying to address their hair loss. Like it's a really uncomfortable situation for a lot of people. So we try to be mindful of that for sure.
Yeah, no, I think it changes people, right? It changes people's whole personalities because it's an ordeal. Like you said yourself, you were level 10 extreme with it. And we've had loads of different guests talking about how it changed them. I've spoken about myself, how it just totally changed my personality, you know, and I think, you know, I'm all for anything that is going to help people get that confidence back. But there's a line, right? Because I just think that with hair loss, if you try to cover it up and sort of not tell anyone about it or sort of own it like that, then you still leave space for this unhealthy mindset. And again, that's why Smp, it really intrigues me. In being in the hair loss industry and doing this Smp, what percentage of clients do you get who have had other work done or on, like, you know, taking the Propecia? Or I'm really interested to know about the hair transplants. I've had emails from guys and a lot of DMs, you know, and they're thinking about getting the Smp done to cover up the scarring. Maybe the hair transplant, they got it done years ago. And we know that, of course, hair transplants, it's not a cure. And what sort of percentage of clients do you see? How often do you see that, guys who have had hair transplants and are coming in to get sort of cover-up work done?
You know, through the years, I've seen, you know, large fluxes and then, you know, smaller fluxes. I'd say probably overall about 20-25% of what we see have had something like that done. Is that pretty accurate?
Yeah, I think the same thing. It has its ups and where you have certain. We do see. I mean, we have at least a couple scars pretty frequently. We would say we work on a lot of people that have had transplants. Sure.
Hair transplants, I mean, they've come a long way. There's two main types of hair transplants. There's the FUT or the strip, which is that line across the head, I'm sure you've seen. And then the newer version, the FUE, where it's just those little individual grafts. I'm happy to say when guys come in with the FUE, the little individual hair transplant scars, we can cover them. We can look in the eye and say, listen, like 90 to 100% coverage with Smp every single time because the scars are so minimal. And they're not very, you know, they're not invasive, not keloided. But those strip scars, those ones are tough. They're tough to cover with Smp. So I know it's tough to hear, but there's no blanket statement that addresses every hair transplant scar. They're so case by case, they're so custom. But the big thing I say, one of our big advantages as far as achieving like the optimal results is Nicole's an esthetician, a master esthetician. So with hair transplant scars, because you know everyone's custom, we'll look at the severity of the scar. Is it raised at all? Is it indented? And we really work on that first and get the health of that back before we do the Smp work. And that makes like a night and day difference. I mean, you almost have to do it in most of those cases.
So it's not just a simple case of, you know, inking over it and cover it up. It's quite a complex, or can be quite a complex process to getting that natural look. Yeah. So for your clients then, have you seen, obviously you've been doing this a long time, have you seen a change in the clientele in terms of more younger guys? I mean, Smp as a whole, we know has got way more popular and more advanced over the years. So with that like advance in technology and the industry as a whole, have you seen a change in the sort of clients you're getting?
It's still 10 years ago when I had mine done, over 10 years ago, it's a bold decision to do something like this. It's a tattoo on the head, essentially, right, is what we're doing here. Still to this day, it's a very bold thing to get done, to undergo. So I don't think there's been a big change as far as clientele, but one big swing that we've seen here in California is we're actually starting to advertise towards, botched work, or not even botched, just and I'd love to ask you a question if you wouldn't mind. I'd love to know your perspective on how natural this really looks. And 10 years into it, I'm on the inside looking out. I would love to know the perception of most people when they first encounter, because you can see, like any other art form, in my opinion, there's like 5 artists worldwide I'd let touch my head that really get it. And then most of the industry is just like, man, cool concept, but if that's what I would have offered to me, I'd be like, I'll wait for the evolution to become a little greater. So please.
So for me, so my current stance on SMP, right, is in terms of going full acceptance and not getting anything done, just shaving it off and being your true self. That will always be number one for me. That's what I'll always promote. I'd say next in line would be SMP, because there's no side effects. It's not crazy expensive. And it's something that is done gradually. It's not like a full-on, like, it's not cosmetic surgery, and it's subtle, and it's the closest to just shaving your head, because of course, to keep it nice and tidy, you still shave your head. The thing I've seen, like you mentioned there, is botched jobs. There's that YouTuber FuzzyTube. Do you know him?
Of course, very familiar.
And he had this this case where he'd had this SMP done, and then he went somewhere else to get something other work done, and the woman there said, "Oh, I can make it look better for you," and she just totally ruined it, and he had this like solid black line. I mean, that's an example there, and I've seen Say again, sorry?
Did you see the after he got it removed and then reapplied again new?
I did, yeah. I saw when he got it sort of taken off and then redone, and obviously, of course, yeah, it looked a lot better.
Yeah. But even after it got redone, not to slow you down, but just to get this thought out, it still looks a little off, right? The hairline and all that kind of stuff. Even after the redo, I was shaking the screen a little bit. I wish I kind of had a crack at it, but it's open to interpretation with all due respect. But even still, I think it didn't do the industry justice. No, such a big following,
Exactly, and I think that's those things, those negative examples stick and spread so much more than a good example, right? If someone gets a botched SMP or hair tattoo, you'll see it everywhere, right? But if someone gets a good one and it looks good, it's like, okay, whatever, like, great, good for you. And I suppose, okay, so that's a good thing that you're doing this and getting the information out there. With my other stance on it is, I think for some people it looks good, but I really don't think it looks good on everyone. Like, I've seen, because it's a look, like, I know you can do different sort of hairlines and you can get it squared up and more natural ones. And I've just seen a lot of, a 50, 60-year-old man, right, with like a super, like, lined up hairline, and even I guess maybe they think it looks more natural, and honestly, I just think it doesn't look good, because it's something for maybe a 20-year-old guy to go with that, or 25, because that's much more common. But for a 60-year-old man, it's so common that they are bald, right, with like a receding hairline and stuff. If you bring the hairline down and stuff, it just doesn't look good at all. So that's pretty much my stance on it. I also think for people of like ethnicity, like Asian and things like that, I think it looks better for people like that, because that I guess you're more used to seeing people like that with that lined up haircut, the short style, and so. That's pretty much what my main view on it, really. I just think for some people, it just doesn't look good. But I can't lie and say that I haven't seen, pictures on Instagram or whatnot of people who have had SMP done, and it looks great. Like it genuinely looks really good. So and you can't hate on that. You know, it looks good. They're feeling good. So I'm all for that. I'm definitely all for that. The main thing, like I said, the look of it, and also I wouldn't want guys to suffer so much through the hair loss, without being to accept themselves, and then use the SMP as a way to kind of still hide away from that and not address those like confidence issues and stuff. The root cause of all that anxiety and negative feelings towards the hair loss, because as you all know, a big part of it is fearing what other people think, thinking like, oh, I look like this old man and I'm 20 years old. And it's so much of it is based on worrying about, what other people think. And if you were to get the procedure done and hide away from it, that's my only other concern. That's why I was really interested to know, some experiences, right, with certain clients. And that's why I'm so keen to have these conversations so that I can learn more and help, just help give better advice myself. Yeah.
Right. Well, I think just to highlight what you pointed out, it's that, although it's subtle, it's that subtle frame to your face, right? It really does make all the difference. And full transparency, I removed my original treatment after wearing it for nearly 10 years. I laser removed the treatment, so I was bald again for a good month and a half, and I was really let down, disappointed in myself. I didn't feel liberated. I felt naked, exposed. All those feelings came rushing back. And I was like, still, after all the years, I'm looking guys in the eyes and saying, I know, man, I know how it feels. I have a seat in the chair. Still, I need that. But, it is what it is. It could be a monster for some people. So, no, you're right on that. It definitely does. In some ways, you could argue it puts a blanket over, the anxiety, the feel of lack, if you do lose your hair. You're right about that, for sure. I
just think it intrigues me more as well that SMP is growing so much in popularity. And I guess it's not just the going totally bald and the dots. Do you guys do the sort of like fill-in work and stuff like that? Is that what it's called? Like if you're going thin, you can kind of put some density in there. Do you guys do that too?
Yeah, density jobs. Yeah, we definitely do. Again, case by case, right? Everybody's custom. But here's one major highlight. I want to really point the microscope at the industry. No one's talking about not just the good versus the bad results. I want to talk about the good but not the perfect results. Yeah. Right? And of course, there's no such thing as perfect. But what we're seeing, especially after, this is where my experience really comes in. It could be an okay or a pretty good result today, but 6 months from now, a year from now, the ink can only settle in and migrate into the skin more and more. And I think this is a common fear with a lot of people, think about pulling the trigger is, what am I going to look like a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years down the road? It's something a lot of people don't think about. And a lot of people that are sitting on the fence, this is their only hang up is, you guys can't tell me what I'm going to look like 10 years from now, so I'll wait on that. I'm not going to press, I know exactly what everyone's going to look like in 10 years, but with my experience, I can definitely make a very educated guess. And what I see out there is some very, okay results, but what's going to happen is in like 2 years, all these people I'm seeing on the internet are going to be really upset and it's going to look fake. It's bad enough being bald again, right? Just to I think about from every guy's perspective. It's like, okay, I was bald, got the hair tattoo SMP, I look okay for a year, and a year later, it's even worse. Don't look at my head, I gotta cover up my hair tattoo now. Does that make sense? And a lot of people I don't think can identify what constitutes a good natural result that will sit. I hear a lot of people, this is the rhetoric for any good artist explaining what it is that we do. It sits on the surface. This is the main difference between like body art tattoo and SMP. It's very superficial where it sits, right? So if we're talking the thickness of like a dime, maybe even less. As soon as you go a little bit too deep and it hits the bloodstream essentially, and the ink sits in the bloodstream, it only has one way to go, and it's just going to keep migrating through the bloodstream as time goes on. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does make sense. And when you get a normal tattoo, I guess if the work isn't done properly, over the years, it sort of spreads out, right? And because you need those individual dots to be so, individual, right? To be so mimicking the sort of the individual hairs. If they spread, I guess that's when you get that really sort of thick and, like you said, fake look. And so, I mean, if there's going to be people watching this video then who are thinking about getting it done, you know, how can people reduce the risks of getting these botched jobs? Because when there's money to be made, you know, there's going to be people out there who, I don't know, do some online course, grab some gear, and away they go, right? So what can people look out for, and how can they sort of really get the best job?
Yeah, I mean, my immediate response is the proof is in the pudding, right? I mean, you can see in the detail. What I always say to people is this is detail oriented, right? You just made a reference of each individual dot. You know, if you can't see each individual dot, and I don't know if you've come this far in your research as well, but you see direct results and it's a little red and irritated, and there's certain serums you can put on to get rid of the redness temporarily. But the healed results, you know, look for healed results that you can zoom in, or even better, see someone in person. I think a lot of people are just trying to be realistic and kind of just settle with results. But I see these big polka dot almost looking dots. 10 years I've been doing this, and I take longer to do this than a lot of people. And it's because, again, I operate from the premise of I want to treat this guy the way I was treated, right? I want his head to look flawless. Mainly, you know, make sure an artist's work, the treatment that you want to get done, is going to stand the test of time, right? That's the big thing. If someone can prove it to you that they have results that can stand the test of time, I think that's someone that I would validate. Okay, this person's, you know, legitimate enough to consider getting this done. It's not a flash tattoo we can cover up. It's a cosmetic procedure. I mean, people are going to see it, you know. So it's not a little thing. Do your due diligence. We're always baffled when guys find out a week. And a week later, they're sitting down in a chair because they found a Groupon or something like that. I'm like, oh, and then we see them. And again, that's why we advertise ads against this. Like, we can help you fix this. What made you do this, man? You know, but do your research, ultimately. Do your research.
Yeah.
First, they were dealing with the psychology of losing their hair, right? That was already really hard for them. And now they're dealing with another problem of trying to cover the SMP that they got done because of what it looks like. I mean, that's two different issues right there going on, and that's horrible for a guy to have to go through that. Again, it's really just doing your research and getting it done correctly. And to another point, what you said earlier about really what we were talking about with the psychology of maybe just SMP being a blanket, I wanted to touch on that really quick, because I think though, especially with us, when they come with us, and I'm not sure at every clinic, but I'm speaking firsthand with our case. When they come, not only are they getting a treatment, but they're really sharing their story. And this may be the first time that they've ever opened up and actually told what's been going on. And not just for a couple months. I mean, some guys have been going through this for years, where they're hiding it from their wives, where they're hiding it from their loved ones. And it's taken such a toll to even be able to speak about it, and in a safe environment makes such a difference, not only internally for them. I really think it's part of the healing process of what's going on. Yeah,
we're really prideful of that occurrence, for sure, to be a part of the journey, essentially. Yeah.
That's a good point, and it kind of links to my question there about, you know, what guys can look out for getting a good job, you know, to go into a reputable place and getting the best job. Because, I mean, you know, you've got tattoos there yourself. I've got tattoos. You know, if you go somewhere, and I guess if someone's just saying, yeah, no problem, like, we can get that done straight away, you're going to feel fine, all your problems are going to be taken away, sit down, let's get started. You know, I feel like, you know, alarm bells should start ringing, right? But like you said, I think it's a whole process. So if someone feels genuinely, you know, interested, and they take the time to hear you out, it's all part of the process, right, of getting this done. So I suppose that's something that, again, that people can look out for. A more simple question on what to look out for. What is too cheap? Like, if someone goes in and they're like, oh, we can do it for $500, like, you know, a bit like tattoos, the same thing, right? If you go and get an actual tattoo done and someone's like, you know, oh yeah, I'll do that for $100, you know, get out. But, you know, so what is like a you know, because you get what you pay for, right? You get what you pay for. So, you know, you see the different prices online, you know, anything, I've seen things, you know, $2,000 for, like, I don't know, 3 or 4 sessions. What is like a good price that a good SMP procedure should cost, and how long will it take?
Yeah, I mean, again, just to point out, care less about the price and more about the experience that's touching your head. But I'd say ballpark maybe worldwide is like 2,000 to 5,000 for the full treatment, which is about 3 to 4 treatments, 3 to 4 sessions rather. Yeah.
But generally, most people do 3 sessions and some even 2. So I
Sure.
think that's what kind of varies a little bit with us there.
Sure. But worldwide, that's a pretty good average, yeah.
In the last episode I did, the guy who I did that with, he mentioned that a lot of people come in with these like unrealistic expectations. Like a lot of guys want that super, lined up dark hairline. Do you find yourself often having to advise guys like you don't want to go down that road? It's going to look bad. Like how much fighting do you have to do with these people to get them the look that they should have rather than the look that they think they should have?
Yeah, as my years go on, more and more I lobby against it, and nowadays I'm comfortable enough to say maybe this isn't for you or we're not for you. You can go to someone else, but I'm not willing to do that. And now I know, for sure what I'm doing to somebody. If they're getting and you can do there's a way to do it artistically, do a softer version of, but if you're doing one of those edge ups, those are the ones I'm talking about a year or 2 from now. They're just going to look more and more ink-like, I guess, is the big fear there. And that's what I want to point out. People to start looking at that because I feel like I'm not doing someone justice ultimately, right, to answer your question. So I just want to do it.
Yeah.
I guess you guys, it's a clinic, right? You call it a clinic. People come in and do it there. Surely it's not for everyone. Surely there's going to be people who their expectations just can't be matched. So I guess it's refreshing to hear then that you are willing to, turn down business on the premise of keeping integrity, right? Not only in your business, but in the industry as a whole. So, in terms of that,
Sorry, this is just important. This is an important subject. I hear it every day. It's always a constant fight between, the client wants natural, but we don't want to compromise, they want dark and vibrant and bold. They want to be outside in the sun and still have a full body look, but they don't want to compromise, an unnatural look. So it's a very, like Nicole was alluding to, we're very different in a few major ways, and we take a very slower approach in most cases. Again, everyone's custom, depending on the canvas, the health of the guy. But we take sometimes 5 or 6 sessions. We do a very slow approach for a specific reason. So we can get that fuller look, but not compromise that unnatural ink appearance that everyone's so afraid of.
I see. So, some of the things then that you're trying to do to sort of, how should we say, improve the industry. You said you take a lot of time with each individual client, maybe perhaps more sessions than other people. What are some of the other problems that you're seeing in the Smp industry, and how are you guys trying to sort of correct those problems and keep that integrity?
Sure. You want to go? Let me take it?
No, go for it.
Well, I think we spoke a little bit before we got started about the ink. I mentioned that in a lot of ways I'm kind of the black sheep, kind of shunned from the the beginning class of the industry, the core people that kind of started, the pioneers, because I disclose that the ink is just it's quality, right, premium quality, but it's black tattoo ink. There's a lot of people that put their label on a bottle and say only use Smp ink, and that's the going rhetoric for a lot of people. So I would never use tattoo ink. Don't use that. You're gonna get that blue look. And I try to rebuttal, but my voice isn't loud enough. It's just people going too deep. You can use the best ink or subpar ink. I mean, don't get me wrong. You have to do your research and find a really good ink. But if you're in the industry, it's not that hard to find. So that's definitely a major one. Is what ink is going to be used. And again, that goes to the question of what is this going to look like 10 to 20 years down the road. That's what everyone's concerned, right, in understanding the ink. So definitely the ink, the confusion there. It's confusing enough to hear that a tattoo ink is going to be applied to someone's head, and that's going to give you that natural result that doesn't look like a tattoo. Hard for people to understand. Yeah. I totally get that. So I get why people would try to dance around that for marketing reasons. But I think it's just so important to understand what we're actually doing. Not to go off track, but a hair transplant. I think most people, even after they've had it done, the guys that we work on, had a hair transplant a year ago, 5 years ago, and they really don't know fully what the doctor did or what else needs to be done.
Idea.
It's really quite quite amazing, and people don't fully understand or comprehend what it is that they're undergoing. So,
and most of them think it's not even surgery. I mean, sorry to go off topic, but
sure.
Most of them that come have no idea that it's even surgery. They're determined that it's not surgery at all.
So in a nutshell, that's a big common concern. Again, it's just the education,
Yeah.
all encompassing, right? Just completely understanding what it is that we're doing.
Also deceiving photos, I would say. Like a lot of Smp companies will market a guy that has hair and is saying, come with us and we're going to give you this look. And you're like, wait a second.
Yeah. A guy just shaved his head. It's a Shutterstock photo that I've seen for over 10 years and this is like probably 80% of people in the industry, when they started out their first couple months with you have to have a website. You have to have some kind of photos to show people, right? This is like the one they use. And yeah, there's a guy locally that advertises. And it's just a guy shaved his head, no Smp done. We're like, oh man. So there's some of that for sure. There's some
unrealistic expectations, and not only that, you're lying. You're blatantly lying. It's, I don't know. For us, it's wrong. It's wrong on so many levels, and you're giving guys, they're having a different idea than what it really is.
Yeah.
And you're selling it to them. So for me, it's just scammy and just wrong.
Yeah, you need full transparency, like we mentioned before we started, and just positivity. And if you're doing things the right way, eventually those things shine through. There's no shortcuts to be had, like you said. No special inks and things. Those things don't win out in the end. So I've got a few questions here from some of the subscribers. So if we can run through those, that'd be great. The first one I got here is, what happens, when the side of my hair goes gray or the existing hair goes gray? What do I do then?
Yeah, so again, most people, I should say, right? Some people are using a little different, but 90% in the world are using black ink, and we water it down. We dilute it to a certain shade of gray, essentially, right? So we're not putting black ink, we're putting gray ink, essentially, into the hair. So when you shave a redhead, blonde, black hair down to the root, where it's just stubble, we're all dealing with shades of gray. So it matches pretty good in that way. And then let's say you just have a clean, I know no one has a clean hairline where they've lost right there, but that common horseshoe that you see, right? We can't just do treatment up here. We have to work into the native hair and blend it in to get that seamless transition, right? So in doing so, a good artist should kind of feather that and kind of trickle it, kind of a way that, natural salt and pepper would come in a guy with native hair just kind of graying by itself, right? So again, it comes down to the experience and the artistry, but a good artist will blend that accordingly. Well, that'll turn in naturally. That'll be the pepper, the ink will, when you do go completely white, completely gray.
I guess then, if someone has come in with maybe 10 years ago and they've had it, done, you can make corrections to it then and kind of adjust it as time goes on. Yeah,
this is where I want to shine the microscope. This is what everyone's running from, and I think it's a matter of ignorance and a lack of awareness as well. But once you put enough ink there, you can only put so much ink there before it looks like ink, right? It's very fine precision. I mean, finesse is the key word. It's very, very superficial. It's just barely sitting on the surface there. So, that's such a common answer. It's just like, oh yeah, in a couple of years you just need a touch up, you need a top up. I cringe when I hear that. It's just not always the case. Once you put enough ink there, it's game over. And that's what I'm trying to say is 90% of the world, I wouldn't let them touch my head knowing what I know, because they're just overdoing it. There's a lot of, people in the LA area that will give you unlimited sessions. That's kind of their marketing plays. $3,000 for your full head. And if you need a touch up in 6 months or a year, we'll just keep giving you more. And I'm like, oh, it's a helmet head eventually. So again, case by case, that's not always the case. It definitely, if again, a good artist is anticipating going a little darker in the region or giving a month or a year to settle in, it's just always good to take the very slow build up, the very slow ride. So it can be done. You can add a little ink, but in a lot of ways it's unreasonable. It's not realistic. Yeah.
So if someone was to have it done, the next question is, can Smp be undone? So if someone gets it done and they actually decide, you know what, I don't like it, can it be removed? How is it done with laser? How is that done?
Yeah. I have a little trick, and I teach how to people how to do like saline removal. If you ever heard of that, where you can remove maybe a big dot or a little region, like a little cluster. But if you want it removed, it's laser removal or bust. That's it. That's the only way you're getting rid of it. Even I had the intention, actually, like I said, I removed mine 10 years ago. I wanted to remove just the hairline was too straight for my liking, so I removed just a region of it. And it was then that I realized I can't put the new ink next to the old stuff, right? It's not going to mesh. It's not going to. So if you want to get rid of it, it's pretty much laser removal.
So the next question I got is about head shine, right? Us bald guys, we all know about that head shine, and unfortunately, SMP doesn't get rid of that. So have you got any particular products that you recommend, or any tips you recommend to reduce that head shine?
Yeah, and nothing that a quick Google search or Amazon search wouldn't give you. And not a huge concern of mine. Through the years, I probably should have a better answer for you, but no, I mean, you can go. There's like a $40 product on Amazon, or even milk of magnesia. I've had friends who put that into spray bottles and give that to their clients as like a free anti-shine. So whatever works. There's a lot of ways to get it. So there's a lot of products out there.
I've actually done a video on that myself, and spoken about it before. Any sort of moisturizer that's like fast absorbing or non-greasy, those usually work fine. And at the end of the day, like a little bit of head shine is natural, right? That's a natural thing. So I feel like guys shouldn't be so afraid of that. I think there's a sort of there's a real, like, I would say niche, you would say niche of people that shave their head that are like really into the shiny look. And I think what happens is people are on Google and they see these pictures of like really shiny bald heads, or that classic, joke of a shiny bald head, and they kind of get freaked out that that's how their head is going to look, but it just doesn't look like that. So I think, if anyone's watching, listening, don't be so afraid of a little bit of shine. It's perfectly natural, I feel. Another question here. Why should someone choose SMP over a hair system? This might have come from someone who was, I don't know, maybe they're weighing up their options. I don't know if you've got any experiences with people who have had hair systems and switched over to SMP, but this person literally said, why should someone choose SMP over a hair system? I
mean, the answer is preference, right? Is what's your flavor? What do you like? What do you feel best in? But I would definitely argue the liberation that comes with SMP. Like I said, we take a slow ride, maybe a month and a half, 2 months to fully complete it. But once it's done, it's done. You wake up, you shave your head every couple of days. That's the maintenance. And, in any circumstance, again, you feel yourself. With the hairpiece, the stories. I'm always amazed when I watch like a John Travolta or Nicolas Cage or somebody with $100 million to their name. They're on the big screen and they have this hairpiece that you can see, that black matter where you can just see that's not real hair, man. So I've never been a believer in hair systems, so I definitely have a bias in answering that question, but preference for sure.
No, me myself, I think the whole hair system thing. When we spoke before about like covering it up, I think that's right up there, like almost at the top of the list of using a way to kind of hide from that receding hair or the balding, whatever, combined that with, like you said, almost maximum maintenance. And I know there's people that are going to argue like, oh, you only need to put it on every month, but I know you have to keep gluing it down and stuff. I think it's just far too much hassle. You're adding more sort of more bits into the equation that you just don't need to be there. You need to be getting rid of things, not adding stuff into this mess that is your hairline. I got another question as well, pretty specific, this one, asking, does SMP have effect on a hair transplant later down the line? So this comes from someone who's had that density work done, right? And maybe they're using that in at the moment just to sort of cover up the thinning that's going on. Maybe they want to they're looking at getting a hair transplant later on, which I would advise you not to do. But would this SMP have any effect on that in a negative sense at all? No,
that's what's so great about SMP is it jives with pretty much anything else you want to do. So especially hair transplants. I always tell guys, when the stem cells come out, it's offered to all of us, we can all stand in line together. We don't have to hesitate. We can grow right through the SMP, right through the tattoo. You can do a hair transplant before or after. It works just as well. So
good stuff. So those are literally the questions from all the subscribers. And we've covered quite a lot. Is there anything else that you want to, while we've got you here, that you want to share with the people that are watching and listening?
No, man, I just, I really vibe on what you're doing, like I said, Nicole, when she came on board a year ago, she's like, we really need to start a movement when she started hearing, stories from these guys, like a movement to just build confidence, you're fine. You know, it's like it's almost a secret society. You know, when you see a guy at the gym with a hat on every day for months straight, you know, we all know what it is, but you almost want to give him the knuckles, you know, like, hey, what's up, man? I get it. So no, I there needs to be more people like you, man, putting the good.
More awareness for sure.
Definitely.
Yeah, more awareness. I totally agree. Just getting it out there, you know, sharing the stories. And, you know, like I said, I'm all about the acceptance, but I think part of it is just putting the correct information out there and then letting people decide, you know, what's right for them. You know, I'm not here to bash, even on things like hair transplant. I just sort of advise, you know, from my own experience. And, you know, I guess you're doing the exact same thing. And so got to support that. And so I want to thank you for coming on. And, you know, talking about the things you're doing and how you're trying to improve the industry. And, yeah, just basically do the same thing as me. Help as many guys as possible, you know, get through this hair loss thing confidently, bravely, and just being happy, you know. So I want to thank you so much once again. I'm so determined to get myself out to the States. I went to California 4 years ago now, and I had the best time ever. So I will be back, and I'd love to, you know, see what you guys are up to. I'd love to come in and you know, maybe see some of the stuff in action. I'm sure that we got some opportunities for that. I'll be looking forward to it. If you have me, good stuff. So for everyone who's watching, listening, thank you. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you've got any questions, I'll put your guys, you know, the Instagram, all that good stuff down in the description and the YouTube. I'm sure you get a lot of questions, so be prepared for that one. You'll be ready to answer them. And we will see you very soon in that next episode. Goodbye.
Thanks for doing this, man. That was fun.
I swear I like your style. Put you in Chanel cause it's just perfect for your smile. Girl, I swear for you I'd run the world, I'd run the miles. The way you look at me, I think I'm going insane. It's crazy how we started out to what the love became.